Good evening, students. I hope you're able to hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Little bit of network issue today. There is a power cut at our place. Okay. Just let me know if there is any issue that arises during the class. We'll get started. So, what was the last topic we were discussing, guys?
Principle of moving coil galvanometer.
Principle of moving coil galvanometer. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So let me share my screen. Just a minute, I'm collecting the document. Yes. So in the principle of moving coil galvanometer, what is the point we saw? So what is the principle on which a moving coil galvanometer works, guys? It works on the principle that a current carrying coil placed in external magnetic field will start experiencing, complete the statement, will start experiencing torque. Right. So due to the torque, what will happen? The pointer will start revolving and all those things. Then we saw this concept, right? So the torque experienced with NIBA sin theta, but the field will be in such a way. The field is called as radial magnetic field. I hope you guys remember. So when I say radial magnetic field, the value of theta is always 90 degrees. So torque, if I put theta is equal to 90 degrees here, then it will be Ni into Ba. And this Ni into Ba is equal to K into phi, which we can also call it as the restoring torque. Right? So what is going to be the value of phi? Phi will be equal to NIBA divided by K, where K is what? It's called as the torsional constant. Right? Then when you rearrange this equation, you get phi by I is equal to N into B into A divided by K, where this phi by I is called as the amount of deflection that is produced per unit current, which is technically called as the current sensitivity. Similarly, if you are able to replace I with V, then phi divided by V is what we call it as voltage sensitivity. The reciprocal of current sensitivity is what we call it as figure of merit. I remember discussing till this topic in the last class, right? So in today's class, we will see the conversions. I told you, right? Galvanometer is basically a sensitive device, but still you can do one thing with a galvanometer. What is that? You can convert a galvanometer into a measuring device. How can you do that? That we will see now. So I'll show you till where have I discussed. I've discussed till this point. Okay. So from here only phi by I is equal to NBA divided by K, all those things we saw. Now, the question is, last class I told you one important point. What is it? With respect to a galvanometer. So I told you one important point with respect to a galvanometer. What is it? Tell me. So galvanometer is basically a sensitive device. Didn't I tell you? So galvanometer is a sensitive device, and it will only be able to tell whether current is flowing through the circuit or not. I hope you guys remember this point, right? But what about an ammeter and voltmeter? They will measure the value, right? Now the question is it possible that if I give you a galvanometer, I say, do some remodifications in the circuit of a basic galvanometer and make it a measuring device. So according to the basic structure with which a galvanometer is designed, it works as a sensitive device. Means it will tell current is flowing or not. Now I want it to be converted to an ammeter. Is it possible to do or not? That's what we are going to see.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you're saying it is yes?
Yes.
Okay. If you do that, how can you do that? Any idea? Let's say I give this to you as a project. Okay, and I ask you to prepare a report on it. How are you going to say that a galvanometer can be converted into a voltmeter or an ammeter for that matter? So let's say I give you a galvanometer whose resistance is G. Okay. Or I will say galvanometer's resistance, I will call it as RG. And there is something called as IG. This IG I would have told you in the Wheatstone bridge concept itself. What is IG? It is called as the full scale deflection current. So what do you mean by full scale deflection current? Means how much current do we need to pass through the galvanometer so that it is able to show exactly the last division that is available on that particular device. That we can call it as full scale deflection current. Correct? So this is RG, this is IG. Now, the topic is conversion of a galvanometer into an ammeter. Okay. So how are you going to convert it? Before that, we need to know the working of an ammeter. So when I talk about an ammeter, first question, how is it connected across any electrical circuit? So if I give you an ammeter, sorry, it is connected in series. That is right. So ammeter should be connected in series with respect to any electrical circuit. And what is the reason for it? There is an obvious reason for it. Because only in series circuit,
the current is not divided.
Current is not divided. Means whatever current flowing through all the devices will be the same. Second, the question that arises is, if I talk ammeter as a device, is it going to have some resistance or not? If I talk an ammeter as a device, ammeter also has a pointer inside. And the pointer revolves as current is flowing through it. Correct? So that is how it is able to show the reading. Right? If it is able to tell us that 3 amperes of current is flowing, then 3 amperes of current should flow so that the pointer is exactly stopping at 3. Right? For that to happen, can I say that the pointer is supposed to revolve? So if the pointer is supposed to revolve, there needs to be a magnet and a current bearing coil inside. That's what we learned in the previous class. No, when can torque be produced in a current carrying coil? When you take that current carrying coil and put it in the presence of a magnetic field, it starts revolving. Correct? So since it has a coil, ammeter has a coil, is that coil going to have some resistance or not is the question. Is it going to have? Think and tell. Guys, are you able to understand my question? Or is it not clear?
So we can understand the question.
You understand, right? Then think and tell me the answer. So there is a coil inside an ammeter, and will the coil have a resistance or not?
Very less resistance will be there.
Yes. The question is, it has. My question was, does it have or not? Yes, it has. The next question is, if it has, is it going to have a higher value or a lesser value? Nikhilesh.
No, it should have a lesser value.
Why is it so?
Negligible value, sir.
Why is it so? Why is it so?
So if it resists more current, it won't be able to give an accurate value of how much
Perfect.
current is flowing.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Means, see, the logic is I have a resistor like this. Across this resistor, I'm connecting an ammeter in series. Right. So if I'm connecting an ammeter in series, the work of that ammeter is to measure the exact value of current through this resistor. If it has to measure the exact value through the resistor, it should not be in a position to draw any current. So the resistance of an ammeter should be very less. Should be very less. I'm talking about a practical one, the one which you have in your lab. But if I make it as an ideal one, ideal is something 100% perfect. If I talk about an ideal ammeter, then the resistance of it is supposed to be 0. Am I right, guys? Are you able to understand the logic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is a reason why I'm asking all these questions, okay? Because what is our job here? I've given you a project or I've given you a task where I gave you a galvanometer. I told you open that galvanometer using a screwdriver, all those things, you open it, look at the circuit, do some modification in that circuit so that that galvanometer which I gave you is now going to become an ammeter. Okay, if that should happen, what am I supposed to do? I need to ensure that the resistance, whatever the galvanometer had, should be decreased to a value which is almost equal to 0. Correct, Ada? So I have a galvanometer. Across this galvanometer, I need to do a modification by connecting another resistor so that the combination of that particular circuit is going to be called meter, whose resistance should be approximately how much? Whose resistance should be approximately
0.
approximately 0. Right? If that should happen, I told you already, since there is a coil inside the galvanometer, its resistance, if I call it as Rg, listen to this carefully, if I call it as Rg, then I need to connect a resistor, an external resistor, in what manner so that the effective resistance decreases. In what manner am I supposed to connect another resistor to the existing resistance so that the effective resistance decreases?
Parallel, right?
Yes.
Parallel connection.
Yes, because in parallel, what will happen? The resistance will always be lesser than the least value available in the circuit. So if I take another resistor and connect it in parallel to the already existing galvanometer, then what is going to happen is this whole box is what is going to behave like an ammeter. To put it in simple circuit, ammeter is going to have the same circuit as that of a galvanometer, except the fact that to the existing coil in the galvanometer, there will be another resistor connected in parallel. Now comes another important question. Listen to this carefully, okay? Because there are too many questions to be asked. Now, if this has to exactly work as an ammeter, you are connecting a resistor in parallel, right? Let me call that resistor as S. I called it as S because this resistance is called as shunt resistance. See, shunt generally means parallel. Okay. So shunt generally means parallel. Don't use a word like a shunt resistor is connected in series. No, that is grammatically wrong. Okay. So shunt itself means parallel. When I connect a shunt resistance across the galvanometer, should the value of shunt resistance be more or less?
More.
If it is more, think. If I say the total value of current the ammeter is supposed to measure is I. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, I've given you a galvanometer. I asked you to convert it into an ammeter where that ammeter can measure a maximum value of 5 ampere. Let's say the total, the work of the ammeter is to measure that 5 ampere of current, maximum of 5 ampere. You're able to understand, it can measure 3.2, 3.3 also, but maximum value that ammeter can measure, which you are going to design, is 5 ampere. So
Sir,
out of
should
the
we
5
test?
ampere, what will happen? The current will get divided according to Kirchhoff's law. So if the
Yes.
current is going to get divided, this will be IG and this will be I minus IG. Now let's think of one fact logically. If I make the shunt resistance of very high value of resistance, then what will be the value of I minus IG in comparison with IG?
Sir, I minus IG will be a negative value.
No, not negative. No, it's not negative. I'm not talking about negative or plus. I minus IG will not be negative.
Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. You can guess. Shunt resistance. See, somebody told me I need to connect a very high value. Correct, Ada? If I connect a very high value, then two currents are able to flow in two different branches. I'm able to see two currents in two branches. One is IG, one is I minus IG. Now my question is I minus IG going to be more compared to IG or less compared to IG?
I think it will be less, right?
Less,
It will
sir.
be less because you
Less,
made its
sir.
resistance logically less, right? Because you made high resistance, means that path is not allowing more amount of current to flow. You restricted it, right? So in order to achieve, if you do that now, what will happen is the galvanometer will get spoiled. Because galvanometer, I told you in the previous class, it's a sensitive device. So keeping all these logics and ideas in mind, what we are supposed to do is, the whole conclusion of the story is, across the galvanometer, you need to connect a shunt resistance of very low resistance value. You need to connect a shunt resistance of very low value so that you ensure maximum current is flowing through the shunt resistance and minimum current is flowing through the galvanometer. Clear? Am I clear, guys?
Yes, yes, sir.
You're able to. So I want you all to make all these logical statements, or else if you don't understand and study, you'll tend to mug up. This is a very, very important concept, and I've seen questions often getting repeated from this topic. So please make down a clear notes on that, okay? So with the assumption that you guys have made the notes, shall I proceed? Shall I proceed further? Can I proceed, guys?
Yes, sir.
Now comes an important question. I told you, what did I say? What is the objective? You need to make this ammeter to measure a maximum value of how much? To measure a maximum value of 5 ampere is what I told you for the time being, right? So if the current here has to be exactly 5 ampere, there is one more thing that will be known to me, that is the resistance of the galvanometer. Because when I buy from a shop itself, I turn it under and see, I will know the specification. Like the resistance of the galvanometer will be given to me. Okay. When I know this value, what is the only unknown parameter to you guys? What is the modification you're doing? You're taking an extra resistor and connecting it in parallel to the already existing resistor. Right? The next question that we need to answer is, what is the value of shunt resistance that I need to connect it across the existing galvanometer so that it is able to measure till a range of 0 to 5? Does it make sense? So for that,
Yes, sir.
what I'm going to say is, if I take this point as AB, listen to this carefully. Yeah? What is the potential difference across AB? According to Ohm's law, can I write it as IG into RG? So the shunt resistance is also connected between the same points AB. Can I write VAB is equal to I minus IG into S? Right. Since they both are in parallel, we know that from the basics of parallel connection, that potential difference will be the same. So IG into RG is equal to I minus IG into S. Am I right? From this, I can conclude that S is equal to IG into RG divided by I minus IG. So this is the value of shunt resistance that you need to connect across the galvanometer so that it behaves like an ammeter. Is it clear? Please make a note. This is all with the derivation, but the concept is tricky. You need to ask so many questions to answer them. Am I clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Good. Make a note.
Noted, sir.
Noted. That's good. Now, what is the next job? You have converted into a measuring device, ammeter, which is going to measure current. Obviously, the next task is going to be to convert it into a what is the other device?
Voltmeter, sir.
Voltmeter.
Voltmeter.
That's it. So galvanometer to voltmeter conversion. Now let's think of this logically. Now, how is the voltmeter supposed to be connected across an electric
Parallel.
circuit?
Parallel.
Parallel. So parallel means what is same?
Potential difference.
When you connect, potential difference is same logically, right? Because voltmeter is going to measure the potential difference. So if the potential difference is maximum, then if I say that the current I is flowing through this, then exact value of potential difference across this is going to be I into R. When will the complete current I flow through the resistor? Only when the voltmeter is off. Only when the resistance of the voltmeter is infinite, ideally infinite, but it generally should be a very high value. Generally be around 5,000 to 6,000 ohms. Okay. Are you guys able to understand? So, to the already existing galvanometer, so I gave you a galvanometer. Now you opened everything, you're able to see the coil inside it. So, to this galvanometer, what are we supposed to do? To this galvanometer, we need to connect a resistor in series, which I will call it as RS, and this resistance should be of high value so that this whole device is what is a voltmeter.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, in which side will the current flow? Will it flow through the resistance first or the galvanometer?
Any side it is going to flow, it is going to be the same thing.
Oh,
Okay, because they both are in series.
okay, sir.
Okay. So if I take the current to be I in this, okay, and how much is this current going to be? This current, since it is flowing through the galvanometer, this will be IG. Always remember the current, the safe bet on a galvanometer is ensuring that a full scale deflection current is flowing through it. So IG into how much is the resistance of the galvanometer? Obviously, it is RG. Okay. So since I told this whole thing is a voltmeter, this will measure a potential difference of B volts. Then what is the value of B equal to in terms of IG, RG, and S guys? RS guys. B will be equal to IG into the resistance of the galvanometer plus the series resistance. So here, what is the unknown value? So like how you designed the ammeter for a range of 0 to 5 ampere, similarly you design a voltmeter also for 0 to 5 volt. Okay, so you know the range of the voltmeter, you know the full scale deflection current, and you know the resistance of the galvanometer. Now what is going to be the unknown? Obviously the resistor that you are measuring. Okay, so you need to connect a series resistor of high value. So V divided by IG minus RG will be equal to RS. So this is the formula for the series resistor that needs connected for you to convert a galvanometer into a voltmeter. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's good. So I hope everybody has made a note of this. Based on this, we will try to solve few problems. As I told you, they are important. You need to understand. Before that, let me show you certain things from textbook. This is what an ammeter is. This is how a voltmeter looks like. Here, what they did is they drew a separate value of Rg. Instead of that, I just took Rg here itself. Okay, it doesn't. So don't look at the textbook and get confused that this is one Rg, this is one Rg, and R. No. So just they wanted to represent a galvanometer with resistance as something like this. Okay. So now listen. Example 4.13. In the circuit, the current circuit 4.27. Where is either? In the circuit 4.27, the current is to be measured. What is the value of current if the ammeter shown is a galvanometer of resistance 60 ohm? So what they are trying to say is, case 1, this ammeter is nothing but only a galvanometer of resistance 60 ohm. Then what is going to be the value of current it is going to measure? How much will be the value, guys? Case A. I is equal to, how much is the potential source across which it is connected?
3, sir.
3 divided by, what is the total resistance of the circuit?
63.
That's it. 3 divided by 63 is going to give you 1 by 21 ampere. So yeah, sorry. So 1 by 21 ampere will be the amount of current that this ammeter is going to measure. Sharia? I hope it is clear, right? Next, what are they saying? B is a galvanometer described in circuit A, but converted into an ammeter by using a shunt resistance of 0.02 ohm. Let's try this. So this ammeter is nothing but a galvanometer plus a shunt resistor of how much value, guys? 0.02 ohm that is connected. So how much is the resistance here? 60. Yeah. So what will be the resistance of this ammeter? Rg into S divided by Rg plus S. Did you understand what I did? R1, R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So what is Rg, guys? 60 into Rs is 0.02. Can you guys calculate and tell me what is the value of it? So here it is given, no, see. 60 into 0.02 divided by 60 plus 0.02, which can be approximated to 0.02. Okay, because the 60 plus 60 plus 0.02 can be approximated to 60 itself. So that this and this will get cancelled. So approximately it is 0.02. So this ammeter behaves with the resistance of 0.02, and here the resistance is 3 ohm. Now, what is going to be the value of current it is going to measure in the second case? The same voltage 3 divided by 3.02. So whatever is the answer, those many amperes it will be able to measure. Am I clear? So this is case B. That is when you have converted a galvanometer into an ammeter. Third one is the easiest one. So if this ammeter was an ideal ammeter, then its ideal ammeter will have how much resistance?
0.
0 resistance. So if the resistance of this is 0, then I in the third case will be 3 divided by 3, which is 1 ampere. Clear? That's it, guys. Okay. Shall I move on? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Let me see if there are any other problems. Let's try to do this one. So there are two moving coil galvanometers, M1 and M2, that have the following particulars. Okay, R1 is 10 ohm, N1 is 30. A1 is 3.6 into 10 power minus 3, B1 is 0.25. R2 is, okay, R2 is 14 ohm and N2 is 42. A2 is 1.8 into 10 power minus 3, B2 is 0.5. Okay, if that is a case, the spring constants are identical for the 2 meters. So K value is same for both. Determine the ratio of current sensitivity and the voltage sensitivity of M2 and M1. So current sensitivity of 2 divided by current sensitivity of 1. So where M1 and M2 are nothing but only symbols, okay? Symbols of those two galvanometers that you have in your hand. So what is the value of, sorry, not phi2 by phi1, phi2 by I2 divided by phi1 divided by I1. But what is phi2 by I2, guys? This you already know. What is the formula? It is NBA divided by K. So N2 B2 A2 divided by K2 and N1 B1 A1 divided by K1. But what is given here with respect to spring constants? They both are same. So K1 and K2 will get cancelled. So N2 is how much? 42 into
40.
B2 is half 0.5 into A2 is 1.8 into 10 power minus 3, the whole divided by, what is N1?
30.
Into B1 is 1 by 4 into 3.6 into 10 power minus 3. Cancel them. There's going to be 2 times. Half, 2 and 2 are gone. So 42 divided by 30 is going to be how much? 21 divided by 15.
So we can further simplify it.
21 divided by
7 by 5.
it is 1.4.
Yes.
What about voltage sensitivity? So what is the formula for voltage sensitivity? Phi by V is equal to NBA
by KR.
by I by IR.
Oh, sorry.
K into IR, correct? But this
Yes.
NBA divided by I, sorry, NBA divided by K. Okay, 1 minute, sorry. So can I say this NBA divided by K is nothing but current sensitivity? So current sensitivity divided by I into R. Right. So what will you get? Okay, we'll write it and see. No. So N2 B2 A2 divided by no, actually what you told is right. No, sorry. Phi divided by V is nothing but phi divided by I into R, but phi by I is NBA divided by K into R. So it will be K2 R2 divided by N1 B1 A1 divided by K1 R1. So K1 and K2 are the same. NB2 A2 N1 N2 B2 A2 divided by N1 B1 A1 came out to be 7 by 5 into R1 by R2. What is R1, guys? R1 is 10, R2 is 14. So it will still be 7 by 5. So the voltage sensitivity is still going to be the same as that of current sensitivity. Correct?
Sir, shouldn't it be 7 by 5
Is it
into
true?
10 by 14?
Oh, 70 by 70. Yeah, sorry. It is 1.
1, sir.
Yeah. It is. So 2 by 2. No, sorry. It is 1. Okay. I hope I'm clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We'll do some more problems. So a galvanometer coil has a resistance of 12 ohm and the meter shows a full scale deflection of 3 milliampere. How will you convert the meter into a voltmeter of range 0 to 18? It's a good problem. So you have a galvanometer coil that has a resistance of 12 ohm. Okay. And there is a meter, and the meter shows a full scale deflection for a current of 3 milliampere. Okay. How will you convert the meter into a voltmeter of range 18 volt? Okay. So what is the formula, guys? RS is equal to V divided by IG minus RG. So 18 divided by IG is 3 into 10 power minus 3 minus RG is 12. So 18,000 divided by 3 minus 12. How much is it? 6,000 minus 12. So how much is the resistor we need to connect? 5,009. So you need to connect 5,988 ohm in series with whom? With the already existing galvanometer. Clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
That's good. So I want you to do 4.28 bits. I want you guys to try and let me. So what is the answer, guys? You're still doing it, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the formula for S? Can you guys tell me that?
S is
Sir,
equal to
IG into
IG
RG
IG
by
into RG.
1 I minus IG.
That's it. So IG is how much? 4 milliampere. 4 into 10 power minus 3 into RG is 15 divided by full scale deflection current. Full range is 6 minus
0.004.
yes 0.043. So we'll do one thing. 60 into 10 power minus 3 divided by. Oh, this is the toughest part, right? So let's do one thing, no? Let's write this 10 power 3. So can I write this as 6000 minus 4 into 10 power 3? This and this will get cancelled. It will be 60 divided by 5996.
0.001 ohms.
Coming out 0.001 ohm. It is because 6000 means approximately 0.001. So one something will come. That's it. Anyways. Okay. So since this problem was also clear, let's do the next one. 4.13. So there is a circular coil of 30 turns and radius 8 centimeter carrying a current of 6 ampere. There is a circular coil of 30 turns and radius 8 into 10 power minus 2 meter carrying a current of 6 ampere. Is suspended vertically in a uniform horizontal magnetic field of magnitude 1 Tesla. The field lines make an angle 60 degree with the normal of the coil. So theta is equal to 60 degrees. Calculate the magnitude of the counter torque that must be applied to prevent the coil from turning. So they're unnecessarily confusing with one term, that is the counter torque and all. They're indirectly asking what is the torque that this coil is going to experience. So what is it going to be? Torque is equal to NIAB sine theta. N is how much? 30.
30.
I is 6. Area is
18.
did they give anything about the area is pi r square? Pi into 8 into 10 power minus 2 the whole square into what is sine theta? That is root 3 by 2. Calculate the value, that is going to be the torque. Okay, those many Newton meter, don't forget the units, okay? You lose marks in your exam. Those many Newton meter is the answer. Would your answer change if the circular coil were replaced with a planar coil of same irregular shape that encloses the same area?
Sir, can we keep pi as pi or should we convert it?
Pi is 3.14. No? They take that value and convert
Okay.
it. You have to do it. So I left the calculation part to you, okay? Now the next question is, would your answer change if the circular coil in A were replaced by a planar coil of some irregular shape that encloses the same area? You're keeping all other parameters unchanged. So what are all the factors on which torque depends on? It is NIBA sine theta. They told all other particulars are same. NIB and sine theta are the same. So here encloses the same area. So if area is also same, what can
So
you say?
the answer won't change, sir.
It will not change. So here there is an important observation to be made. whether it is a circle or square or it is in some random shape, if it is of the same area, keeping all of the specifications in mind to be the same, then the torque experienced by it is going to be the same value. It is unaltered.
So then the only factor that mainly depends in this question is the area. So no
Yes,
matter
it
which shape
depends.
it is, the area covered will be the same. Then the answer also be the same.
Yes. So
Okay.
area is important and the orientation is important. When I say orientation, the angle. If
Okay.
the magnitude of the area and the angle are the same, and whether it is, so if it is the same magnetic field, same current, and same number of turns, the answer is still going to be the same. Okay.
Okay.
We'll do. Let me check if there is any other problem. I think we have done everything. So the only topic that is left out in this chapter is Ampere's circuital law. Okay. So I'll give you the basic introduction of Ampere's circuital law. After I explain it, in tomorrow's class, I will explain the applications of it. If possible, I'll try to complete it tomorrow itself or maximum by Wednesday. Okay, this chapter is also about to come to an end. Now, in the first chapter, guys, so write down the heading as Ampere's circuital law. Okay. So in the first chapter, what are the two important laws that are present? So if you observe in the first chapter, there are two laws that we have studied. What are they? One is Coulomb's law, and the second is
Coulomb's law, Gauss law. Gauss law.
yes, we would have studied Gauss law. Correct? Just a minute. So what did Coulomb's law speak about? Coulomb's law spoke about what are the force that is going to exist between 2 point charges, right? And Gauss law had certain application. What were the main applications of Gauss law? We tried to find the electric field due to some symmetric systems, where Coulomb's law needed some tedious process of mathematics, was replaced with the simplicity of Gauss law, where we use the concept of symmetry. Correct? So keeping all those points in mind, in this chapter also you see there is something called as Biot-Savart law, which we have already used. No doubt in that. Next is Ampere's circuital law. It mainly speaks about finding the magnetic field for a symmetric system. They would understand what I'm trying to say. So, Biot-Savart law serves the purpose solved by Coulomb's law in electrostatics. Ampere's circuital law is going to solve similar to the concept of Gauss law. So here, observe. If I have a current carrying conductor, okay, which is carrying a current I, and we are interested to calculate the magnetic field at a distance P, then what we can do is we can either calculate using by considering a small current carrying element and applying Biot-Savart law. That is one way. The other way is by taking a loop around the current carrying conductor in such a way that the loop is also going to pass through the point where you're interested to calculate the magnetic field. Okay. If you're interested to calculate the magnetic field at a particular point, then if you say the magnetic field at this point is B, and you take a small element on the loop. Here, understand, I'm taking a small element dl on the loop. Okay. Then there is a rule like this. Integral of B dot dl is equal to mu naught times I in it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is surface integral of E dot ds is equal to charge enclosed divided by epsilon naught. No. Here, this is Gauss law. Electric field is replaced with magnetic field. ds, area is replaced with dl. 1 by epsilon naught is replaced with mu naught, and q net is replaced with I net. Okay, then this loop that you're considering is what is called as an Amperian loop. Okay, this Amperian loop is a two-dimensional loop that you're going to consider around the current carrying conductor. Okay, around the current carrying conductor, such that the dot product of the magnetic field and the small current carrying element that you take on the magnetic field, sorry, on the Amperian loop, is equal to mu naught times I net, and this is what is called as Ampere's circuital law. Okay. Please make a note of all these points. I'll give you some time to absorb this concept. Means what I'm trying to say is, next topic that we need to discuss is the applications of it. But applications I directly don't want to jump. Like how you guys answered today, if you guys revise all these things and come, and if you're able to answer it tomorrow, the class will be more lively and we can make it more interesting. Okay. So I suggest you guys to revise this concept and come for tomorrow's class. And tomorrow I'll explain the application so that you understand it. I'll show you what are the applications. So using Ampere's circuital law, we will be finding the magnetic field alone, a device called a solenoid and toroid. These are the two applications. That's it. So with this, the chapter is over. So as I told you, I'll try to complete it tomorrow itself. After I complete, I'll do this problem. There's a very good problem and it is important also. So for you to understand it, you need to revise it properly. Clear? Any other doubt, guys, from today's class?
No, sir.
No, sir.
That's good. So revise and come. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Okay. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.